My name's Gil Prather. I'm the old half-ass songwriter, I guess you'd call it. And I'm very honored to be here with my boys, Scott and Brian, and Clay, our engineer. They wanted me to do a few old songs for you that I've written. Here's a song that I was very honored about. 1996, I was awarded Western Song of the Year by the Academy of Western Artists, which is a high-profile deal. Quite an honor, but some of these songs I'm going to do, I'm just going to strum along like I was in the process of writing the song instead of banging a lot of guitar. It's how you kind of write songs, come up with them, strum a little bit. So I'll be back in Texas by the fall. I'm on my way to Colorado, trailing doggies up from Mexico. These doggies have a new home in the Rockies. I'll be back in Texas by the fall. I'll spend springtime in the Rockies beneath blue Colorado skies. The Rio Grande is calling me home, and I'll be back in Texas by the fall. Springtime is nice in Colorado, but winds blow cold in wintertime. I'll be heading back to Texas. I'll be back in Texas by the fall. I'll spend springtime in the Rockies, while on New Range the doggies roam. The Rio Grande is calling me home, and I'll be back in Texas by the fall. Now adios to Colorado, adios to all you buckaroos. The cold winter wind will soon be blowing. I'll be back in Texas by the fall. I'll remember the Rockies in springtime. I hope the doggies like their new home. The Rio Grande is calling me home, and I'll be back in Texas by the fall. The Rio Grande is calling me home, and I'll be back in Texas by the fall.
Hello everyone, I'm Scott Turner. This is the premiere episode of the Border Chronicles. We're here today with our friend Gil Prather. Brian Bourbon and I are going to be doing this podcast, I don't know, once or twice a week. We're going to start it out. I don't know if it'll be formatted exactly like we're doing it now or not. We're still working our kinks. But I do know this. We had an opportunity to get to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Gil Prather. And just couldn't hardly pass it up. So Brian called me, told me he wanted to talk to Gil about his songs and about the way he comes about writing those songs. And Gil agreed to it, and here we are.
I'm Brian Bourbon, and I'd like to welcome Gilbert for coming. Gilbert's a lifelong resident of the Big Bend country, cowboy, songwriter, businessman, all around good fella.
Thank you.
And we're definitely interested in his history on this part of the country, and of course his songs and stuff and everything else. And Gil, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, not much to tell. I just raised up half-ass cowboy, then became a half-ass songwriter, and love this country, and love all you boys like you're my own. We all go back a long ways, and I'm very honored to work on this project with you boys. You know, there's always been a time I've written these old border music songs, you know, since I was a child, and I appreciate the opportunity you boys have given me to get something on video and let me tell some of the history behind the songs, why I wrote them. A lot of songs you don't know, but I write a lot of different types of songs, but my heart's always been the border music. And there's a story behind damn near every one of the border songs I've written. And I love you boys, not only because who you are, but you respect the history of the area more so than most, because you were raised down here, up down this damned old border, and you understand where I'm coming from.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we do.
Yes, sir.
That's a kind of, they'll get to know us over the podcast, but I grew up down in Terlingua. I grew up all over West Texas, actually, but early 80s, my daddy went through the oil bust, and it went from being high and mighty and high rolling to living in a little bitty RV with 2 dogs, a cat, a bird, and my sister and my mama and daddy. We had little tight circumstances. I woke up, we moved from Fort Stockton. We were in Chickasha when the boom ended, and then we moved to Fort Stockton and were there about a week before we found out there weren't any oil jobs in the Permian Basin anymore either. So Dad decided he had come down about a year before that and went mining with Charlie Sims down in the Sierra Madres. And he said he liked Terlingua, and he said it's off the grid, kind of, you know, back in the day it was not off the grid, that wasn't the saying, I guess, but it was kind of the place where you could go and kind of rebuild, start again, and that's what we did.
Yeah, I guess that old country's always good for what I call a mental enema.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And you talk about the grid, off the grid, hell, there wasn't no grid down there.
There wasn't no grid at all. No, sir.
Oh, Lord.
So tell me, Brian, when did you start going to the Big Bend?
My mother met my dad on Terlingua Ranch in 1972, and it wasn't long we were living in Alpine. Terlingua's always been a part of, you know, my grandparents owned property down there. My dad was in love with that country and couldn't stay out of there, so Terlingua was our playground when I was a kid. That's fond memories of stuff that isn't there anymore. I miss the place. I don't go down there much anymore, but that's another episode.
Yeah, that'll be a whole nother episode right there.
But yeah, I just, and then stayed there after high school off and on for 10 or 12 years. But it's changed. My dad was just in love with that place, so he kept us down there. Plus, it was the closest place to go fishing.
Yeah, the river.
So we fished the river.
Yeah, I don't think people Stan, your dad was the geologist for Big Bend National Park.
Yes, sir.
Forever, he knew more about
Yes, sir.
that country than most of the people who've been raised there, 'cause he got out
He walked
all over
Yeah, he
the
walked
country. So many down there, hell, they don't get out of the beer joint nowadays.
No, sir.
His dad, Bill Bourbon, he was a geologist. He was an expert on that country.
Yes, he was.
He was in love with that country, people and everything. And so I spent quite a bit of time down there. Rode the school bus and all the good stuff.
Then hell, you boys were river guides down
River
there.
guides.
Yeah.
River
Did a little bit of
guides,
that.
half-ass cowboys, did everything down
Yep.
there.
Everything there was to do. They could earn you a nickel back then. We did it. We'd get a nickel to spend at La Kiva back then. That was a good day.
Imagine.
You go get us a pitcher of beer at the end of the day,
Yeah.
swap lies and have fun and chase the green tortoise around back in our single days. We chased that green tortoise bus out of Europe. They had what were those called? Hostel trips. Well, they'd load up somewhere on the East Coast and they'd shoot to the West Coast. And man, every time they stopped at the grassy banks. It was a free place to do camping.
Now wait a minute. Was that hostel or hospice? When we all died?
No, sir. No, we didn't all die. It was definitely hostels.
Yeah, I
they
read
were-
into some of them hostels out there in
Right.
California where not homeless, but all the derelicts and people that didn't have another place to go, they'd go to those hostels. So was that what that
Well, I
gets
think
all
that's
about?
what it was, but they were young people.
It was a fend for yourself kind of bus trip all the way across the United States.
Hmm.
And it was full of young Europeans.
Hairy, underarmed, young, pretty girls from Europe. And boy, me and Gabe Acosta.
That's why you go to Linguine where
Well.
men don't bathe and women don't shave. So the hostels settled down there. I wonder who ever settled down in that dried out son of a
Yeah, well, they'd stop. Boy, we chase them. Me and Gabriel, we'd crawl through glass just to get Dad's truck or his daddy's truck, and we'd go to grassy banks, introduce ourselves, and talk to the girls, and usually get shooed out of there because we were kids. We weren't 14, 15 years old. Those were the good old days back when there wasn't really any. Heck, Gabriel, the first time I saw Gabriel Costa, he was driving his dad's pickup, sitting on some books across Terlingua Creek there by La Kiva, and I was with my dad and my sister pointed out the window and she said, I go to school with him. And my sister was 2 years younger than me and I was only 14, so this 12-year-old came driving down the road in his dad's pickup truck. That was a different time. They can't do that anymore in Terlingua.
It's changed. I guess everything goes through change. Some of it good, some of it bad. That's no más say la vida.
That's right.
Such is life. So
It floats on along just like that river.
that's it. Rolling muddy Rio Grande keeps rolling on.
So when's the first time you came to the Big Bend area? When did you first lay eyes on
I
it?
came down here in the middle 50s. Nothing was here, not permanently. I came down permanently in about 1959. But I've been coming in and out of here all my young days. You know, had family ranching interests.
Mm-hmm.
I always considered it home, and finally settled in, you know, pretty permanently down here. And I had to get out here and do other things for a while to make a living, but I always come back because this country is what I consider home. And it's real hard to make a living. You know, we ranched for years down here, and that was tough. You know, our ranches were mainly down in the lower country, which is a whole lot different from the Fort Davis and Alpine area. But it was a good experience after spending all the time down there and working on those ranches. You go back in the real world, it's not much really hard anymore. You experience every damn hard time and hard situation there is, and you boys went through it growing up down there. It's
Yes, sir.
nothing easy about that old border country. It's hard on everything. But it gets in your blood. You love it. And seems like everybody ever spent time down there, they always come back. If they stayed there long enough to get it, right?
Well, some people stay down there all their lives and they don't get it. But then other people come one time and it's in their blood and they got to get back to it.
That's it.
I knew a lot of people that fell in love with Terlingua just because their damn car broke down and Archie took too long to fix it and they never left.
Yeah,
They fell in love with the sunrise on the Chisos, sunset on the Chisos.
Ooh.
We know a lady lived there her whole life, hates it, can't stand it. But that's just where home is.
Who are you talking about?
There's many weird things happen up and down that border. They're unexplainable. It's a mystic, weird type area.
Can be,
If
yes,
you
sir.
get it.
If you get it.
You boys know what I'm talking about. A lot of things we don't even talk about. Or no one would believe it. But strange things happen down there.
Yep. So you mentioned Maggie Smith the other day. There at the Steedy Butte store. How long would it take you to ride from the Roseos to the Steedy Butte store?
Horseback, I never tried it. They'll bring 2 or 3 horses to get over there.
Okay.
But you're from the Roseos, we had to come through the park. It'd take, 30 miles, 50, it'd take about an hour and a half to get over there. Way back then, everybody knows Terlingua is what it is now. That whole area down there was not like it is now. There was nothing there. Maggie Smith is curandetta, which, is a medicine woman, and she was down in Indian Hot Springs for years, down there out of Bocuse, and she moved out of Indian Hot Springs, and some old dilapidated buildings now, they're kind of above Steedy. She moved in one of those old buildings and kind of opened a store. And, had some beer, a few groceries, and people hang around there, a few people. Her store was there. Then when you got up to the ghost town, there in Terlingua, the old big building, wasn't nothing in there, nothing. It was completely vacant. No roof, old Starlight wasn't even known as a theater, just a piece of that big old building. A few Mexicans lived up in those hooches, above the old Terlingua store.
Yes, sir.
A trading post. And then, there's some old rock houses, dilapidated structures that had been there. But the next thing on down the road there, 170 now, but going on to Redford and City Hill. The only next thing was the trading post there on the river, That was it. Nothing else. That was so pristine. And when they started putting in that Terlingua ranch and raping Terlingua in that beautiful country, it took me several years to get over it. I'd go down there and see it and just cry real tears because I remembered how pristine it was and still is to a point if you get away from all the whatever you want to call those structures and things.
Yeah.
And, it's changed. Terlingua's Terlingua, but then you go up to Lajitas where they built these fancy hotels and all that. They're 2 different types of people altogether.
Yep.
The rich people go to Lajitas, the hotel, play golf, $200 a day. And then all the poor people, not poor, they come to Terlingua. Terlingua's where your really music scene is now, and that music's what holds Terlingua together now.
I think so too.
It's interesting. I guess you'd call it evolution.
Yep.
What it is.
No getting away from it. It's
Mining carts to Miwoks.
Yep, it ain't gonna go backwards, I don't think.
Well, if they run out of water, it'll go backwards.
No, it will that.
Because they got too many people for the amount of water they got, I think. I don't know that for certain, but it just seems like to me it's a desert. The more people you put out there, eventually you're going to run out of that mine.
You know, they subdivided all that Terlingua Ranch, and, you know, these people bought those parcel lands through the newspaper and stuff. Hell, they might not even be able to get up there to where that little piece of land, I call them nesters myself. I don't mean to be talking bad about it.
Right.
Then they'll go out here and build them a house with no water, no electricity. Got to haul water in. You know, these days have some solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard life having to haul that water. That's a hard chore.
My dad and my stepmother do it, and that's a testament to how much he loved the place. Because they had a place in their hearts where they wanted their house, and they decided to make that sacrifice. And she catches thousands and thousands of gallons of rainwater every year.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
amazing, isn't
And
it?
has test kits and stuff. And
Oh, yeah, they do
drinks
real.
it. And Dad used to haul
Yeah.
water in. I don't know. I think she's still hauling water in.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, they build those cisterns, don't catch that water. That's real good. It rains, hell, the average is only 4 to 6 inches of rain.
Yep,
That's
you
right.
better catch every bit of it when it comes.
You hit a drought, and you might not
Yeah.
do too well for a while.
But I understand people want to live sort of wild and free. I can understand that.
I can too.
But I'm old and I could live like that again because I sort of raised up like that, but I don't want to.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the same way. I could if I had to. Me and Jenny talk about it all the time. If we lost everything tomorrow, I got a fifth wheel trailer and a little tiny piece of land here or there, and I could settle and we'd find a way to make it, you know.
Oh, yeah. I just like cowboying down there. I don't know where anybody, I guess, movies and all that crap, thought it was romantic to be a cowboy. Shit. Man, they don't understand. They don't get what we had to go through down that old rough, dried out country. It was work, man. It's hard on everybody. Horses, women, cattle,
Dogs.
anything, dogs, you name it.
It was hard to make it out there. It's cowboys and Indians for people, and it was cowboys and Indians for pets. It was pretty rough. Out at 3 Bar where I was at, it was pretty wild. It was 10. That's 10 miles from the blacktop. You know.
I know exactly where it is.
Been
on
out
it.
there.
Yeah,
It's a pretty ranch too.
it's beautiful ranch, but it's still not as isolated as so many of those others.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Other
At least you're
ranches.
within 10 miles of town. There's a bunch of them way further than that.
Yeah, we had north of those seas, south of those seas, all right. We just had 4 miles off the highway, or South American. But North Ranch, that headquarters, 18 miles. You know,
Usually a bad road too.
yeah, what road, maybe trail to get back in there.
What road? That's right.
But it's all good. I love it. Love this old country, always will. We can cuss it here and there, but then we're probably blessed to have spent time
Oh, absolutely.
down there.
I'm pretty sure it's where they'll scatter my ashes too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Down south on the river somewhere.
Put me in the river.
Yeah, when I die, scatter my ashes down roads where the wild wind blows. And it blows down there. I guarantee you that. It's just so hard for probably tourists and other people to realize how different Lower South Brewster County is from Alpine and Fort Davis and Marshall. It's a completely different country. You take
It's like
Fort Davis right here, 20-something miles to Alpine, then about another 80 miles on down to Studi Butte. The country changes 6 different times.
in 120
Completely.
miles.
You know,
amazing, isn't
in
it?
geological matter or whatever you want to call it. There's 6 different types of country from here down to the river.
This up here is a sky island, is what they call it, because it's. I think they said the elevation's within 100 or 200 feet of Denver. It's nearly
we're almost a mile here.
mile high here in Fort Davis,
Almost
whereas
a mile.
down on the river here,
Yeah.
it's plumb hot. By God.
Well, there's, another thing I've always loved about the Big Bend, man, is the history. There's so much history that's been exposed and so much hidden history also that has never been fully exposed. It's amazing what has happened down here through, last 120 years.
Hell, even longer than that. I'd say it really gets interesting to, our podcast, we're going to be going over, some cowboy culture. We're going to be doing a lot of borderlands, basically relationship between the two sides of the border. We're going to talk about that some. I got some friends that are archaeologists that want to be on the show and talk about some
Great.
stuff out at La Junta
Great.
and their finds in Presidio. As far as the historical background goes, I'd like to do a show or two on some of the people that settled our area. Henry Skillman, and the guys like Ben Leeton and the guys like Don Favor, John Burgess and John Spencer, who are those four guys. Those four guys are the first guys that came to our area, Presidio area, and they started the first trading post there. Ben Leeton did, and then John Spencer and John Burgess both had ranching parcels there, and the Spencer Ranch actually became Presidio. It was the town of Presidio on the American side of the river. At one time, was actually called Spencer's Ranch because John Spencer had bought all that property up. It was actually where Henry Skillman ended up dying as a Confederate spy in 1864. I plan on doing some shows that talk about stuff like that, and those are the things that I'm really interested in. But we've also got friends that want to be on our podcast that are historians as far as the Wild West goes, which is another big topic. I like the old Ranger stories. I like the old outlaw and bandit stories.
Oh, yeah.
I like all that stuff. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have quite a bit of content that's going to be talking to people.
Oh, no, it's unlimited. If we can get a hold of people before they die.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir. Yes, sir.
That's right. We plan to do it.
Ain't many old timers left, boys.
We're trying to get as many of those stories out there as we can. We're going to
Guaranteed.
start here in the Big Bend and with the border country, and then we'll spread out.
Okay.
Spread out and do
Fantastic.
all of West Texas and hopefully even some of the Southwest. I'd like to go as far as Tombstone. I've got some buddies that are into the whole Wyatt Earp and Tombstone era that are really are fantastic authors and historians. And I think they might be interested in coming on and maybe pushing a book. Who knows? That's what I'm
You
hoping.
should get some viewers on this. So.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope they're interested in what we got to talk about. And if not, well, I guess we'll talk about something different.
All you can do is take a run at it.
That's what we're going to
See
do.
if
We're going to
anybody
take a run
likes
at
it.
it, bud.
It's young millennials. Hell, I don't know. It's strange to me. Some of them I've run into don't seem to give a damn about the history. It's just today.
Well,
But maybe so your show and your and Brian's show will kindle some interest in these younger kids so they'll start paying attention to the past.
well, I got my interest by listening to old timers talk. That's what got me interested in it. So hopefully I can get people, because hell, I'm going down the road to where I'm the old timer. So I want to be able to get this stuff out to as many people as we can.
Well, if somebody, be it you or somebody, whoever, if it's not documented here pretty quick, the history's going to be gone.
Yeah, it goes like the wind.
Because most old timers, they've already gone. There's a few like me that remember a little bit of stuff, before you boys was even shitting yeller, and So
Well, not
it's
only
good.
that, but you knew and were friends with guys that were old timers
Oh,
then.
yeah.
So those old timers told you the stories so you
Oh,
could pass
yeah,
them on to us.
I always loved to talk those old timers. You know, that's one of my things I always loved was history. You know, any kind of history of the world.
History of the world, that's
You
it.
know. But you're doing a good thing here. I just hope you, Brian, proceed with it and
I think it's going to be a good time.
document some of this history. That's what you're talking about. Let's
Yes,
get
sir.
it documented before it's gone. And you know, the history books are being so rewritten now, it's, you know, they're misleading on what really happened.
Well, there's a lot of revisionist history happened in the last 40 years that if you read a history book that was written today versus a history book that was written closer to the time that it happened with first-hand accounts, those first-hand accounts are all kind of pushed off to the side.
yeah.
Because, well, the more scholarly mind has done this research.
You know, let's write it like what we think it was.
Yeah,
Let's don't write it like the old timers that were there knew what it was.
yeah. I kind of like that. I like doing my research, and I like to know what it said in the newspaper at the time. I want to know what's in the courthouse about the subject, but I also like those first-hand accounts. And I think today, you know, we've lost the ability to do that in the field that I'm in because those old timers are all gone now. But we've still got their stories, and we've still got the research to do to bring out new things that may have happened that people don't know about yet. That's what I'm hoping to do.
Well, don't hope, don't say
That's right.
gonna, just do it.
Just do it.
Get off your butt and do it, Scott.
That's the plan, bud. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now, amigo.
Good Lord help. It will be very interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you what, you keep messing, smuggling that dope, smuggling all this stuff. Here's where you're gonna end up. A young and reckless cowboy on the border raising hell. I ain't exactly visiting this vehicle yourself. No tango dinero, mordida for my bell. I know enchiladas in a vehicle jail. 80 days on the border, 80 days of living hell. 80 days there ain't no sunshine. Oh, mama's doing well. Oh, this young and reckless cowboy ain't doing too damn well. I know enchiladas in a vehicle jail. Got some friends back in Alpine, they could gather up my bail. There ain't no cards or letters in a vehicle jail. Just as well catch a coyote, tie that on his tail. I know enchiladas in a vehicle jail. 80 days on the border, 80 days of living hell. 80 days there ain't no sunshine. Oh, mama's doing well. Oh, this young and reckless cowboy ain't doing too damn well. Ain't no enchiladas in a vehicle jail. 80 days on the border, 80 days of living hell. I know enchiladas in a vehicle jail. guarantee you, it ain't much fun. There's all sorts of smuggling, though.